average person attention span today is just 8 seconds or less. That means you just have 8 seconds to guide people to the information they're seeking. And trust me, that's not easy. And it's especially hard when some of the websites we can visit today take 5 to 6 seconds to load, which leaves us to just 2 seconds to go ahead and consume the content and to understand whether the website has the information we actually need in the end. That's why in this video, we're gonna be covering one of the most talked about topics, and that's website speed. I'm gonna talk about how website speed is measured, how it impacts your website, and some of the top popular myths that you have about the overall website speed in the end. My name is Orosh and I'm the founder and CEO at Webflow Ninja. And over the past years, we've had a chance to win the award for the Webflow Enterprise Partner of the Year in 2023 and build more than 150 websites for the world's leading startups and enterprises. And one of the questions we get really often on the sales kickoff calls when we work with our clients is, can you increase our website speed? I mean, the answer is always yes, but what do we actually do and what should you actually consider when you want to optimize your website speed to load faster? Before jumping to the speed itself, I know most people are going to be actually looking at the Google speed test, and based on the Google speed test, you're going to be identifying whether your website is good or whether your website is not good. And that speed test actually has some strange metrics that some people might not understand. The first thing is LCP. When you see that, it's gonna be scary. But in general, it's the largest contentful paint. It's gonna say, hey, from where you visit a page, how much time do you actually take to go ahead and view all of the elements in the first screen? So you might have a few blocks of text and an image and like a header. You're gonna figure out how much time it actually takes for those core elements, the largest elements in the first screen you see, to load. Then you're gonna have first contentful paint. And this is actually the time it takes for you to see the first possible element on the page, the first paragraph, the first navigation or anything like that. And that's why specifically for heroes, you might not want to have a lot of interactions just to ensure that first contentful paint is gonna be as shorter as possible. Then we're gonna have CLS, which is cumulative layout shift. And this is something we don't want on our websites because, for example, if your website is moving left and right, up and down and whatever in unexpected ways, and it's loading some of the elements later on, it might affect the user behavior, and by you accidentally scrolling the website to the left or something popping up to push the website down, you might click a button which is not expected and you might in general have a bad user experience. Then we're gonna have time to first byte, and to say that in the easiest way possible, it's actually the time from you actually visiting the web page to that web page going to the server responding, and then actually starting to render the page itself. I mean, I might butcher it and kind of a lot of backend people are gonna hate me, but for the average day-to-day person is the easiest way to explain that. And in order to have a really good time to first byte, you want to ensure that if you're doing reverse proxy set up properly, and on the other side that you have a really good hosting provider and a really good server from where you're serving the website from after all. If you want to go ahead and skip the Google Lighthouse speed test, which combines a lot of different metrics and says, is your website performing well or is it not performing well, you can as well maybe use tools.pingdom to go ahead and have a single number, which is going to be a little bit easier to understand in the end. So by us actually knowing what the metrics mean and which platforms we can use to go ahead and gather those metrics, we're going to be able to start identifying the problems with our website and to slowly start optimizing them after all. And the first thing is probably going to be images. You want to go ahead and kind of ensure that when you're exporting images, you're exporting them at 2x at the proper resolution, so that you're not exporting an image this big just to put it in a small square like this, which is probably going to be really heavy. You want to compress the images, ideally to be not in megabytes, but in kilobytes, like 100 to 200 kilobytes, something like that. You want to consider which type of images you're exporting. PNGs are going to be heavier than JPEGs, so you can go with JPEGs, or maybe even ideally go with WebP image sources so that your website loads faster and it loads in a better way for all of the browsers. Apart from that, you're gonna have in which way you load images. So for example, in the hero section, you might wanna load the hero image with eager setting just to ensure that like your largest contentful paint is gonna be shorter, but all of the other images are probably gonna be lazy loaded, and you wanna ensure that you don't load all of the images as soon as the person hits the website in the end. The next thing, which is probably going to be slowing your speed down, are scripts. And I know as the website gets older and older, marketers sometimes like to add more and more tracking scripts, more and more platforms to track the website. And in the end, we can do more harm than any good. So just ensure that all of the tracking scripts you're adding to the website actually mean something and that you're using all of those platforms. So you might install Hotjar, but you never logged into the platform itself, and it's actually slowing down your website. So just ensure that all the scripts you're using are actually being used. And if you need to use a lot of custom tracking scripts, ensure that you load them up to your website with Google Tag Manager, because this way you can optimize when each script is gonna be loading in order to optimize the user experience in the best way possible. And if you wanna go really overkill, you can start using Segment and kind of tools similar to that, which are gonna allow you to gather all the data at one point and then to send it to all the other platforms that you actually require in your business. The next thing which can slow down your website are heavy interactions and animations. Everybody likes Tree.js, really nice interactions and kind of just those interactive experiences. But when it comes to speed, they're not the best possible solution you can use for speed. I mean, personally, we like to use a lot of micro interactions, which are not gonna impact the website speed, and in the process are not gonna make the website even heavier for the users to load on their webpage. Videos can also really heavily impact your website speed. Ensure that you host them on tools like Webflow, Vimeo, and YouTube, and that you don't host them directly on your website. Just because if you have a background video which is like 100 megabytes or whatever, and you upload it to your website directly, every single user is gonna be downloading that video, and that's gonna be slowing down their website a lot. And then related to the platform itself, it's also gonna hugely depend on the platform. I mean, I strongly believe that every single platform can be fast, but some platforms have a few quirks here and there, which are gonna make it a little bit harder for you to go ahead and make your website perform well. On WordPress, you're gonna maybe struggle with plugins, where the more plugins you add, the slower your website is gonna be, so then you're gonna need to clear cache, you're gonna need to update them, you're gonna need to maintain all of that. With some other platforms, it's gonna be hosting, just to identify which hosting provider you're gonna be using in order to serve the website properly, and maybe just you're gonna need to go through a few hosting providers before you see whether they're actually as fast as you were expecting them to be. So that's why I really like using Webflow in the end at RStudio, just because it handles everything. It's not slowed down by plugins, and on the other side, it has a global CDN and a global hosting integrated into the platform, so that we don't have to worry about maintenance and we can just worry about building websites on Webflow. And probably the biggest myth at the end is how you look at SEO and speed. I mean, at once, Google is not gonna care if your website is fast or is it not fast. But on the other side, if your website is faster, people are probably gonna stay on the website longer, they're gonna consume more content, and in the end, that's gonna tell to Google, hey, this website is good. I've shared this example with somebody on Google, and they spent like 30 minutes on the website, the content must be good. So just ensure that technically the correlation is not direct, but is indirect, because the faster your website, the more time people are gonna spend on your website, and in the end, that's gonna tell to Google that your website is good and that the content you're actually publishing on your website is gonna be performing really, really well. And finally, as a bonus tip, make sure to track your website speed at least once per month. You might add something on the website you completely did not know is gonna slow down the whole website, and just a few months after, you realize that you made a big mistake. You might have lowered your conversions, impact your SEO, or anything like that. So that's why we're currently building a tool called DataGoat, which you can also see in the description below, which is gonna be allowing you to track your website speed in just like the next few months or so. So just stay updated, start the free trial, and you're gonna be notified when the platform launches. And to conclude everything, we often forget the basics. We wanna work on really cool and fun stuff, but we forget about the website speed. And just ensure that whatever you're doing on your website, how cool you wanna make it, but that you also ensure that from one side you have a really good strategy for it, and then from the other side that you ensure that whatever you're adding is not ruining the website speed. And in the end, you can make a really fun and like a strategically well-positioned website, which is also gonna be performing really, really well. So it's not like that you need to kill something completely in order to make the website perform well, but you just need to take a little bit more time when you're actually building the website and to approach that with a lot more steps in the end. And if you want to hear more about our strategy at RStudio of how we approach websites and what we think about websites, you can view our video here where we go in really, really depth on how we created more than $1.7 million revenue from just a single website and how you can do the same on your site.